Today I want to talk from the topic, who knows? And I'm going to be using Jonah, the 3rd chapter, as my text, and I'm only going to read the 6th through the 9th verse. And it says, when the news reached the king of Nineveh, he rose from his throne, removed his robe, covered himself in sackcloth, and sat in ashes. And then he had a proclamation made in Nineveh. By the decree of the king and his nobles, no human being or animal, no herd or flock shall taste anything. They shall not feed, nor shall they drink water. Human beings and animals shall be covered with sackcloth, and they shall cry mightily to God. And all shall turn from their evil ways and from the violence that is in their hands. Who knows? God may relent and change his mind, and he may turn from his fierce anger, so we do not perish. As many of you know, I like football, and I, along with my whole family of origin, are Philadelphia Eagles fans. One of the rival teams for the Eagles is the Dallas Cowboys, but oddly enough, I'm married to a Cowboy fan. So on last Sunday afternoon, the only game I could get on TV for the early game was the Dallas-Atlanta game. I was happy when Dallas was behind in the game. The Dallas offense fumbled the ball a few times in the beginning. 3 fumbles enabled the Falcons to assume a 20-0 lead, but Dallas didn't give up. Towards the end of the game, Dallas came roaring back and were within 1 score of catching up to the Falcons. It didn't seem very likely that they would be able to close the gap because time was running out. I'll not try to get too much into football rules, but Dallas kept pushing even when the odds were stacked against them. After scoring a touchdown that brought them close to the Falcons, they did an onside kick, which should have been grabbed by the Falcons, but miraculously, the Falcons made a bad move, and Dallas got the ball and was able to score with just a little bit of time left, and they won the game by 1 point. The score was 40-39. Now, if Dallas had given up when things were going badly, they would have lost the game, but they kept moving forward with determination. That may be more than you want to know about a football game, but the game reminded me of life. That is, that it's always too soon to give up. Who knows? Something surprising could happen, like when the Falcons messed up with that onside kick retrieval. There's an old song that I used to like by The Main Ingredient, and it was called Happiness is Just Around the Bend. That song encourages a woman to keep going to reach her destination where she experiences a new birth. And that's how it is for many of us. We need to keep going right around the bend. We give up right before we reach what could be our perfect destination. Because sometimes there's someone who, out of their true concern, or out of what we used to call hateration, will try to discourage us. But we have to find it within ourselves to keep moving. Ralph Waldo Emerson said, whatever course you decide upon, there is always someone to tell you that you're wrong. There are always difficulties arising which tempt you to believe that your critics are right. To map out a course of action and to follow it to the end requires courage. In our text today, we find a group of people who worked together for a major transformation, even though they had no assurance of a positive outcome. Today, we're looking at the 3rd chapter of a book of a fictional character named Jonah. He's the protagonist in this folk tale. He was told by God to go to Nineveh, but he got on a ship going in the wrong direction. A storm arose, and since Jonah told the sailors that he was running away from God, they reluctantly threw him overboard, where he was swallowed by a fish that eventually vomited him out onto dry land. If you missed the previous 2 sermons, you can listen to them on the YouTube to get more of the story. After Jonah was ejected onto dry land, he finally acquiesced and went to Nineveh as he was initially directed. Jonah didn't want to go to Nineveh because it was known as an evil and dangerous city. But after a couple of life-altering experiences, he had a change of heart and made the journey. The text says it has some exaggerations actually in it, because first of all, it says Nineveh was a 3-day journey. Archaeologists say Nineveh was actually only approximately 1.5 miles in diameter. and even I can walk that far in less than a day. In the text, it says, Jonah went into the city and proclaimed, 40 days more and Nineveh shall be overthrown. He didn't call an assembly of a particular group of people, not a particular race, class, or political persuasion. The message was for all of the Ninevites. The warning was about something that would impact everyone. The people heard and believed what Jonah said. And even though Jonah never mentioned God, they came up with a theological response to the issue. Jonah's warning did not include any evidence of divine mercy. They heard an ambiguous pronouncement that did not mention God. Nevertheless, the people began to overturn with the hope to avoid this external warring faction they thought was going to come to overthrow them. The people proclaimed a fast, and everyone, great and small, put on sackcloth. Sackcloth was what they put on during times of mourning and repentance. They knew they had to do something, and everyone got engaged in the change. It was Leonardo da Vinci who said, I have been impressed with the urgency of doing. Knowing is not enough. We must apply. Being willing is not enough. We must do. It was after the people were already working together to give themselves a chance that the king found out about the edict from Jonah. Instead of fighting against the people or punishing Jonah, he realized he was included with the rest of the Ninevites. He took the response to another level and included the animals and the crops. And then he encouraged everyone to turn from evil and suggested, who knows, God may relent and change his mind, and he may turn from his fierce anger so that we do not perish. What a strong sense of community, to realize we're all in this together. How often I wish our communities and our country operated that way, because in many ways we are all in this thing together. Although our current polarization may make it more difficult to see that than ever. I fear historian Vincent Harding's warning has become truth for us. He stated, a truly pluralistic and human society must be undergirded and overarched by a common vision for the public good. For without that capacity to see ourselves ultimately as a community, without that common basis on which community must be built, we are in danger of disintegrating into hundreds of private warring special interests. That sounds so much like what we see every time we turn on the news, a broken and fragmented society, with some of us trying our best to hang on to the thin threads that hold us together. While there are some of us on the grassroots level who can see what's happening, there are many who do not seem to care or who just don't see the potential destruction of our society. Unlike the leader of Nineveh who saw the potential degradation and joined in what was best for all of the people, we have narcissistic, racist, xenophobic, maybe sociopathic leadership who only cares for people who agree with him. So at the grassroots level, we continue to push for racial equality, for the health of our climate, for help for the poor, and in the shadow of the over 200,000 lives lost to COVID-19, scientifically backed public health. We are the people of Nineveh, with a warning of destruction, but in our case, the enemies are internal. The main option we have to bring about change is our vote. There's another critical point that the scripture for today raises, and that is, don't believe everything you hear. That is true in our personal life as well as in community. Think of the times we've misjudged or avoided someone due to what you heard about someone or what you heard about a group of people. I remember I had difficulty with people from India based on things other people had told me. But then I got a job. I had been unemployed for a couple of years, and I finally got a job through an agency where all of the employees were Indian. And when I got to my assignment at Coca-Cola, even my director was Indian. And all of the developers on my project were Indian. They all turned out to be some of the most intelligent and the kindest people I've ever worked with. Often what we hear is tainted by someone else's opinion. In the text it says, Jonah began to go to the city, going a day's walk, and cried out, 40 days more, and Nineveh shall be overthrown. That was not really accurate. The verb that was used was ambiguous and could have been used in a couple of ways. It's a minor but very significant difference. The word that caused Jonah to say Nineveh will be overthrown also could have meant Nineveh will overturn, as in change. The message from God was skewed by Jonah's fear and dislike that was born from what he had heard about Nineveh, even though he had never been there. It's always important to be careful where we get our information. Some of us watch CNN, others Fox News or MSNBC, and unfortunately others just get news off of Facebook, or worse still, the manipulated political advertisements that pollute the airwaves. That's why it's so easy to spread conspiracy theories, especially with the advent of social media. People can push any poisonous viewpoint and theory that would benefit them or frighten people to blindly follow a particular path. It was Paulo Freire who said, manipulation, sloganizing, depositing, it was Paulo Freire who said, manipulation, sloganizing, depositing, regimentation, and prescription cannot be components of revolutionary praxis, precisely because they are the components of the praxis of domination. That's why we need to stay as informed as we can, as thoughtful and as prayerful as we can. And like the people of Nineveh, we must keep our efforts focused on what benefits the common good. We can't check out or quit if things get hard or if things are not going our way. I believe it was Yogi Berra who said, it's not over until it's over. Or Nabil Jamal who said, it's not over unless you stop trying. We need to keep doing our best to save our communities, our families, and our country, even when it seems like forces are working against us. The people of Nineveh in the text had no guarantee, but they continued to push for change until the end. As their king said, who knows? Things can still turn out in our favor, even if the odds are against us. We just have to keep trying. In the end, things worked out well for Nineveh, and they were not overthrown. Instead, they overturned by making a collective choice to be a better people. It's good to note that in the text, God always had a positive view of Nineveh. From the first chapter onward, God said that they were a great city. No one else's opinion can sway or erase the love of God that flows through us. God always had a positive view of people that other people look down upon. God always had a positive view of Black people, of women, of persons with disabilities, of LGBTQ folks, of immigrants, of whatever socially constructed category folks try to put people in. No matter who we are or what we're going through, God is with us. So we can keep pushing forward no matter what happens in our life. Who knows? Tomorrow may be the day you get the call about that job. Who knows? Tomorrow may be the day you get a better health report. Who knows? Tomorrow may be the day you can reconcile with an estranged loved one. Or today might be the day that the fog lifts and you can write that story or that music you've been trying to create. Or who knows what's going to happen on November 3rd. No matter what the polls say, and no matter how outside forces try to suppress the vote. What I know for sure is God is love, and love's view of us is always positive. Love still enfolds us no matter what happens. So let's commit to staying hopeful, like the people of Nineveh, Let's keep moving with the vision of a beloved community, the community that love says we can be. I love this anonymous quote. It says, when the world says give up, hope whispers, try one more time.
Thanks for listening. Join us next week at 10 a.m. Eastern Time via Zoom. Send me an email to drkathy100 at gmail.com. That's DRKATHI 100 at gmail.com. And I'll send you the information so you can join by Zoom. Well, have a great week.